Okay, let's go ahead and get started with case 7. In this case, we're going to be doing nested statements, and this may be a new term to you all, but nested statements are functions within a function. So there's quite a bit to this. I'm going to go through this in detail. Also, too, I'd like to tell you that you may notice a different link. I'm changing programs to enable these recordings. What we have at Western is got some hiccups, and I have to kind of overcome that. So I'm going to change to Camtasia and YouTube. So you shouldn't see any difference. You should have a YouTube channel, my private channel, that you can go to, and with a link and see what you need to see. So let's go ahead and get started. This first one, we're asked to insert functions in the pet deposit column of the summary worksheet to calculate the required pet deposit for each unit. If the unit has 2 or more bedrooms, then you have to look at the number of bedrooms over here. Then and was remodeled, and notice the word "and" was remodeled after 2008. The deposit's $125, else or the rest of it's $75. So anyway, so we'll go over to pet deposit, and again, it's a little different, and some of you all may have trouble with this, but I'm going to go ahead and use the if-then statements that we've talked about already. I think it's important that you consider the functionality, and so we will drag this over here. And the logical test is to see if C7 is greater than, and C7, you can look at the deal there, see if C7 is equal to or greater than 2, and F7 is greater than or equal to 2008, then 125 else 2008. So we've got the if already there, and we will do the and right here and open this and say C7 is greater than or equal to 2, and F7 is greater than 2008, and we'll need to close this back up right here. And so if that's the value and it's true, and you can see that it's false already, and you can look and see why it's false, but the value, if it's true, is 125, and the value that if it's false is 75. So when you finish this and you don't see any errors, you don't see any red over here or anything, it means it's probably okay, as long as these all fall within on what you're doing. So we'll click OK, and you notice that it's 75. And I don't think the author has told, he's told us to do the pet deposit column, so he says functions. So what we can do now, because we have no absolute relative up here that we're referencing, we can probably just drag this down right here and see if it all is good. And we look at this, it's all 75 except for 1, and it's 125. We can see that it's 3 bedrooms over here, and we can see that it's also it was remodeled well past 2008. So that makes this 125. All right. In similar circumstances, for the recommendation over here, the authors ask us to enter nested functions in the recommendation column to indicate need to remodel if the apartment has changed, is unoccupied, and last remodeled before 2005. For all other apartments, display no change. Very, very similar to what we did before, except this time you're going to type in the words instead of putting the 125 and the 75. You're going to put in need to remodel and no change, and so that is shouldn't be a big deal. Just use the same, what you did over here, use the same thing for this, and other than that it'll be identical as far as the syntax that you use with the if-then. So just go back and look at this and just substitute in what the differences are, but you will begin the statement again with and. Continuing on this, the authors asked us to type 101 in cell B2, and this is 101. Let me get you some more room over here. And he asks us to type that in there. And what we're going to be doing is a little, it's a different type of reference. We can typically he's asking us to take this 101 and match it up over here, and we will annotate what will what apartment complex I believe it's in, and sort of nested function in cell E2 that will look up the rental price in column D using the apartment number reference in B2. Now, as with a lot of things in life, this is going to be a little more complicated than what it should be. What I would have done, or what you can do, and the author is trying to teach you something on here. This is called a nested statement in here. So what you can do is look and see, and we're going to use something called an index, and also another type of function that will allow us to do this. So knowing that, and then we're going to do something called an index and a match. And so click on this up here. He's asked us to look at this, and then it needs to match up with the rental price. So you could do a VLOOKUP where you look at this and matches to the fourth column over here. But in this case, he wants us to use something different. So I'm going to go ahead without burdening you with a lot of information that you may or may never use again, and use something called an index function. And so what I'm going to do is just begin this and index, and we are going to index A7 to H24, A7, and then H24. This is this whole thing right here. We're going to do this, and then we're going to match something, and you'll see in a minute. B2 to, and then A7 to A24. And because it'll be a false lookup, and then close that, and then it'll be the fourth column and close that. Again, this is a long way to do something for this, but again, the author wants you to use nested functions for this. I probably could have come up with something. And as you can tell, when typing in here, I've got something a little bit different. So let's see, A7 to H24, comma match, open B2, A7 to A24, A24, and I have added an additional right here that I don't need. So this ought to work better, and it does. So we've got, now you can look and see, if you look at 101, you can look over and see the rental price is $750. Again, a VLOOKUP. Let me just show you something. We've got a few minutes. What I would have done with this right now is this. I would have looked up the value of this, and I would have said the table array of this, and I would have said the index number, first, two, three, fourth column, and got the same amount. So, point being, sometimes simplicity is better, but I wanted to show you what the book's looking for on this. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this next one in the database right here. Authors ask us to enter some criteria range up here. So we want the number. He said enter the criteria range to remodel, and we'll show you why for the ones that need to remodel. So number of bedrooms 2, and then 3, and then occupied, they are not occupied, and then the recommendation, of course, is to need to remodel. And we go with this. And the next thing we have to do is we're going to perform an advanced filter. Again, this is probably new for you. Go over to data and do advanced filter. And the authors ask us to look in here, and what we're trying to do is we're going to, this is our range, and then the criteria range is going to be this up here. So what this should do is it should go through this array and find this information here, and then it should filter out everything that we don't need. And here you are. So this is good for sorting for filtering out your data on what you want to look up for. The next thing is, again, probably something a little different than most of what you all have seen before. We're going to use some decount, dsum, and dmin. And again, you probably haven't seen that before, but let me explain it as I go along. I'll go into the function itself and give you an idea. So we're asked in cell 7, the authors ask us to enter a decount A function to calculate the number of apartments to remodel. And so again, go into functions and then go to decount A. There it is. Go to decount A, and the database that we're going to use is of course A13 through G31. This is what we're after for our database. And then the field that he says use to calculate the number of apartments to remodel, the field of course is H2, need to remodel, be the recommendation right here. So H2, and then the criteria that we're going to use is actually the criteria that we've already created, criteria right here that we've created. So I think we so we end up with this, and just glancing at this criteria that we've set up and everything, our answer should be 4, and of course it's 4 right here. So that works out well. Now the next one may be a little more complex than this, because you have to kind of decide on yourself. Authors ask us in cell C8 to enter a database function to calculate the total lost rent for the month. So how much are you using while these units are down? How much are you losing while these units are down? So this time we're going to do something called a data sum function. So just dsum, and we end up with this. And of course the database ought to be the same as we used before, A13 to G31. The field that we're going to use this time is our unit under development, so it would be A2, and then the ought to be the whole thing right here. So I take back what I said. It ought to be the field ought to be D13, be the rental price that we will get, because we're looking to sum these up right here. So it would be D13, and then the criteria that we're going to use is A2 to H4. Now, looking over here, A13 to G31, we have this array. We have the rental price that we're trying to add up if it follows in the criteria of A2 to H4. So the criteria that we've set up here. So should be able to, look at this and tell how much we're losing. And of course it's $42.50. And when you do that. And the last one is not any easier. We're going to calculate or enter a database function to calculate the year of the oldest model in cell C9. So this time we're going to use as I said before, a dmin error. So the function, let's go down to here first and do function, and then we will do the minimum up here, or a dmin. And so this time the database function will be our database, of course, will be this over to here. And be careful, this overlaps. Don't grab this next cell, or you will get a mistake if you do. And then the criteria, of course, would be the F13, the last remodel that we're looking for. And so it would be F13. And then the criteria, of course, again, would be the entire criteria. And 1999, and we can look and see that this is correct and everything. So this is different. That's why I'm going through it in detail. Let's continue over to the next loan sheet right here, and you'll have a lot of fun with this one. We're gonna again spend a little time in here to make sure that we understand what we're doing. The author asked us to click the loan worksheet and enter 3/20/2015 in 2000 and cell B7. So B7 would be a first payment date of 3/20/2015 in here, and that worked out well. Then he's asked us to insert a formula in cell E2. E2 up here, ask us to insert a formula in cell E2 to calculate the loan amount based on the loan parameters in the input area. And this is only, it's pretty easy. It's only B2 minus B3. So equals to B2 minus B3, and we end up with 475. The author has asked us then to insert a formula in cell E3 to calculate the total number of periods, and that of course is B4 times B5, and we end up with 360. Then the author has asked us to, probably a monthly rate is next. Let's see. Insert a function in cell E5 to calculate the monthly payment, and this the monthly payment right there. And let's see. Cell E5. The periodic monthly rate would be next right here, and this of course is nothing more than taking B6 right here and dividing it by the number of periods, or B4, number of payments per year, equals B6 divided by B4. B6 divided by B4, and we get 0.48% is our monthly rate. And then the next function will be the monthly payment, and the monthly payment on here is in cell E4, and we use a payment function. And this will be the pretty simple. It wouldn't have been simple if you didn't go through and find the number of periods. So the rate that we have is E4, and then the number of periods that we got in E3, and then the present. And you can see that this is equaling, looking real good. And then the E2 is our loan amount, and so we can put E2 up here. But you notice when you do this that it ends up with a minus sign. And without going into a long detail, the easiest way to get rid of that is just to put a minus sign right here, and we will get a number right here, the number of future payments that we're looking at it. again, this is the easiest way just to trust me on this. If you have a minus sign there, the number's correct, sign's wrong, easiest just to put a minus sign over there and finish this. The last thing that we have to do is, and it's hard to read, I'm trying to pull the instructions up and I keep going on and off there right now. I'm trying to look at this right now. And the last thing we do, of course, is go to cell E6, and this is a little bit different. We're going to do a cumulative payment on this, and there's a lot of arguments on what we're going to use. So the cumulative payment, cumulative payment is insert the function and pull this up, and then we'll start down with the different areas. Your rate would be E4. Your number of payments, of course, is E3. Number of payments, periods, I mean, sorry. The PV is E2. And here's where it gets kind of complex, would be E3. And what you want to do, the ending period would be 0 because you want to accumulate all of that. And we end up with, I've got too few arguments for this. Let's go back and take a look at this and see. So I should have a cumulative payment of E4, E3, E2, and I left out an argument on here. Let's go back into the function. And let's see, I've got E4, E3, E2, and the start period should be 1, and the ending period should be 360, or E3. And let's see if we can't make this make sense now. So, now that I've still entered too few arguments for that. Let's go back to it again. It's okay to make mistakes. E4, E3, E2, 1, and the ending period. So, looking at this, one of the things that I failed to do, and this is okay, is I'm looking at the arguments. The problem that I have as I go through this is that I have a down over here, and I am leaving up the type. And the type is the timing of the payment. And in this case, use 0. And so I end up with 522. And I'm showing this to be total interest paid. And using this, then I can see that I've got a negative number. So you can go back and change this. I don't think you'll have one of these in your when your test, or excuse me, your assessment. But you can go back if you want and change one of these over to a negative, and then that would, like we did before, and then that would give that a positive. So let's keep moving. I missed that a couple of times. The next thing that we have to do is go into our payment mode. And let's see. So what we will do now is complete this. The authors ask us to complete the loan amortization table for the first 5 payments only. Cell C11, enter 1. We're going to do this up here through 5 times. And I'll tell you what the next thing we have to do is the payment date is you'll just provide a reference to it. The beginning balance is you will provide a or the loan amount, you will provide a reference to this. So what we're going to be doing now is typically there are calculators that do this for you automatically, but we're going to do the hard way. You're going to show the interest paid for this first payment up here, and then you're going to show the principal payment and then the ending balance of what you have left. And this is going to decrease over here. This is going to decrease. The interest paid, you will see, will slightly decrease, and then the principal payment will slightly increase, because, as you know, in paying off a loan, the more interest you pay, the less principal you pay, and vice versa. Going to do this for 5 times. I'm going to do one of these and explain it, and then you can do the other 5. You should be able to pull this out. But now this is, again, probably something new you haven't seen. The interest payment, Excel has a good function in here, and the interest payment is I and then PMT. And this is kind of neat right here. You can do the same thing for principal. The rate is E4, and the period is going to be A11, and so this is the what you want to look at for the period that we're going to be, because you're going to go through 5 periods over here. The NPR is E3, and the present value is E2. The one thing you want to do, though, is, if you remember before we had a negative up here, you're going to convert this over. So we're going to go ahead and put a minus sign right here, and then we will stop with this. Now I want to show you, we should get a payment right here. The problem that you're going to have is, you drag this down, you're going to want to make some of this absolute and some of this relative. So you want consistent up here on E4. You want the number of E4, you want the number, the monthly rate, to be identical. So we're going to have to F4 that. And then you also want the E3, and you're going to want to F4 that, because E3 is obviously not going to change. And then the E2, or the minus E2, you're going to have to F4 that. So you should have 3 of these. You want A11 to change each time. Now that's obviously nothing's going to change over here, but you want A11 to change each time that you bring this down, but you don't want anything else to change. So now, very similar with the principal payment, then and obviously these two together would be taken from this. They want you to do an ending balance. But with the principal payment, then it's a PMT, and there it is. And so the rate, once again, is E4, and this time we'll just go ahead and F4 this while it's up here, because you know now that you have to do that. And the period is, of course, A11. So, and you want this to change each time. The NPR is E3 for the number of periods, but again, you want this consistent, so we'll F4 that. And then the PV is minus the E2. So, but again, we're going to be smart and put a minus over here, and then we're going to also be smart and F4 this. So we've got this. Looks good, looks good, looks good. We see 495 right here, and not very much principal. That's a lot of interest. And of course, if you run this out to 360, then you would see at the end of the period, then of course you have very little interest and a lot of principal. And then the ending balance that you have to put on here is of just C11 minus E11. So ending balance is C11 and minus E11, and that's how much you still owe and what your balance is. So it doesn't decrease very much when it's new. So you can do the next 5 right here. The author has you do this, you're going to create this and do the table through row 15 only, and then you can turn this in and get yourself a grade. Don't forget again to change this up here so it's a positive number. And that's all I want to talk about. I know this was long. I know this was arduous. Please watch it a couple times if you need to. Good day.